What's up, everyone? Welcome to Unmasked, where things are discovered, uncovered, brought to the light, and made known. I'm your host, Lamar Barrett, coming live to you from PG County, Maryland. If you're interested in finding out about the untold stories behind being a college coach, this is the show for you. Being a former assistant men's college basketball coach for 16 years, there are so many untold stories behind the scenes in the life of a college basketball coach. Now, let's unmask them. Today's guest is a young and bright assistant coach, has a tremendous worth of knowledge about analytics. He's a United States Air Force veteran, a future head coach in the business, and a native of Mesquite, Texas, Adam Hood. Now, Adam played at Air Force Academy, finished in 2008, and then he spent 5 years as a commissioned United States Air Force officer. And he was double dipping a little bit because he was the associate head coach at their academy for 1 year. And then he was over at Boston University for 2 years as the special assistant to Joe Jones before heading to Columbia to work with Kyle Smith, who's now the head coach at Washington State. He was there with him for 2 seasons. And then presently, for the last 4 years, he ready to go on 5. He's been at University of Texas, San Antonio, where those guys have done a tremendous job of turning around the program. I want to say, and he working for Steve Henson, who I know he was formerly in Oklahoma. So he's doing a terrific job there. I want to welcome to the show, Adam Hood.
No, thanks a lot, Lamar. Appreciate it, man. And any opportunity to speak about basketball, and hopefully we get some numbers in there. It's a good day.
All right, man. We'll try to do that. Let's try to get let's go right into it and get unmasked. Now, your path was a little different. Like you was in the military, and you finished, as an officer. You go right over to coaching high school, but then right into college. So you probably the first time you really got on the road was probably at Columbia, unless there was a chance at as a special assistant. But I always say this: there's no handbook to being a college coach. Like, tell me about that first day, first week, first month. And it can relate back to Boston University. It can relate to Columbia. It can relate to UTSA if you wanted to. But tell me about that first day, first week, first month, after things are done with human resources and orientation, especially when no one gives you direction in this business. And you've been a guy that's followed directions for most of your life, for most of your career. Tell me what that was like.
No, I guess I'll start off with Boston University. I mean, again, Joe Jones, it was a good opportunity. Luckily, Steve Snell, who I played for at Air Force, he was an assistant. He made the call for me. I was stationed up at Hanscom Air Force Base, which was in Bedford, Massachusetts. And I was basically, first I just wanted to go work out, went somewhere to hoop, so that was a place for me to go. It wasn't far from where I lived. And, Steve Snell made the call over there for me, and Joe Jones wanted to sit down with me, and I sat down with him, and basically I wanted to volunteer. And his first reaction was kind of like, because he didn't pick up my call. I kind of just showed up when I popped up on him, because I'm like, dude, I know some of the players. I've been playing pickup with them. Let me just show up to his office and just, how can he turn down free help? How can he turn that? That's no way. And so I get in there and I kind of popped up on him. He kind of startled him a little bit. I was like, hey, Steve Snell, called on my behalf. I would, love to sit down with you and speak with you and talk to you. And luckily it took about 2 or 3 days, and they finally, found time to schedule. Head coaches are so busy. Finally sat down and talked with me and allowed me to work in the office basically as a glorified secretary. So I'm sitting in there, we're in basically a big room, and there's, a desk over here, there's a desk over there, a desk over here, and everybody, and the coaches have offices. So I'm in there with the graduate assistant, I'm in there with the operations guy. And from day one, I'm basically just stapling stuff. Like I'm just the errand boy, and I'm like, I didn't know what that entailed. I was like, hey, let me volunteer and do whatever. And it was, like you said, there was no instructional book. Just around there, I'm looking, I'm watching, I'm like, hey, do you need help with that? And it's like, people don't want to give up stuff that they've been given, because then that makes them less valuable. And I'm just trying to think, hey, I'm here, and I'm, basically donating my time after I get off, my work being an Air Force officer. I'm just gonna donate my time. I'll do whatever you want me to do. So that first week or two, I'm literally just, running stuff to the other side of campus. I'm going to compliance. I'm I'm basically just a glorified secretary. And I didn't know any better, but I humbled myself, and I'm just like, dude, I just want to help. If it's stapling papers, I'm staple papers. If it's organizing this, organizing that. Luckily, I knew Photoshop. And so that made me valuable because I studied Photoshop, and I'd actually done some web design, just freelance web design, and that bled into Photoshop. And so then I was like, hey, you guys think if I can make some graphics for mailouts? Oh, yeah, do that. So they just basically gave me that direction, and I just basically created a mail out system and just did some fun stuff. Some stuff, they loved, some stuff they didn't, but I had freedom and it was my own. So that had been my first experience in college basketball.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And it's interesting, like you said, because people don't understand, and it's like college basketball is not the shiny suit you see on TV. There's a lot of stuff to go behind it, man. So I'm glad you said that, because people don't understand. You do what you can to get into this business, and then you figure out what to do to stay in this business once you get here. So I love that story. Recruiting. We all know that that's the lifeline of college athletics. You got to get good players, good people. And so, like you guys, like you said, you was at Columbia with Cal Smith. So obviously you was getting good students. UTSA, now, you're with Steve Henson, terrific coach. Still getting good players, good players, good people, good students. But talk about like one of, or just about recruiting, like what was your best and worst recruiting story?
Oh man. I mean, there's so many. And again, I've been in this deal for 9 years. And so one of the, I'll start with the worst first, because I want to end on a positive note. One of the worst ones, one of the nightmarish ones was actually we had a kid, local kid. We were recruiting him for a while. He kind of had no offers, kind of flying under the radar, hit a growth spurt. It went from like 6'6" to 6'10", and he was skilled. And we're like, ooh, like we're kind of sitting there like salivating a little bit. Some smaller schools that kind of came in and dabbled with him. But speaking with him, we were like, okay, cool. Like he finally reached a point to where, like we think, maybe a redshirt year would be best for him. But if we redshirt him, kind of hide him in the weeds, I think after a redshirt year, he could maybe even be a starter for us, because weight was the only thing he really needed. So we bring him in the office after his season. And so it's, it's actually our off season. So we bring him in, we've been kind of recruiting him, not super hard, but we had, been in contact with him, been in his games, and he comes in, and we're in there with him and his mother. And we're kind of have this big surprise. We're going to offer him a scholarship once we show him around campus again for, he come and play pickup with our guys. But so we were like, we walked him around campus again. His mom hadn't done it, met with, the academic advisor, and met with, athletic director. And so we get in the room, and we say, hey, you know what, we're going to offer you a scholarship. Here you go. Oh man, the kid smiling ear to ear. Oh, he's the happiest could be. Mom sits up and goes like this. So I was like, I'm like, well, wait a minute. Like you wouldn't, so we that was something we kind of unforeseen that we didn't see. And so the kid, was like, hey, how do you feel about this? Oh man, UTSA is my dream school, which again, don't hear that very often, but it was a San Antonio kid. And he's, oh, UTSA is my dream school, coach. Like you could tell he was ready to jump at the bit. Mom steps in. Hey, let him sleep on it. Let's go home and let's let him marinate. He's a little excited. Let's let this sink in. Let's process this. Okay, so we say, hey, perfect. Take it home with you. Take those papers home with you. Hopefully you sign them tonight or in the morning. And so the next day, give the kid a call. Hey, man, how's it going? Oh man, it's going great, coach. I'm so excited. And he had lucked up and, coach, I'm ready to come. Well, all right, cool. I ain't gonna do nothing. I pressure him. All right, cool, perfect. So I get on the phone, call Coach Henson, get him on three-way. Hey, coach, recruit wants to talk to you. He has something to tell you. Hey, yeah, coach, is where I want to be. It's my dream school. I'm so happy. So, we're all excited. We're like, woo, yeah, we'll do a backflip. So I go and I call his mother. And so I say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna call, I didn't even tell him, but I was like, okay, cool. Like that's what we normally do. You get to recruit, we've been in contact with his mom through the whole process, stepdad through the whole process. So I call his mom and I say, hey, this is the best news we've had all month. It's great to have you guys on board. Great to have you guys be a part of UTSA Roadrunner family. She says, huh? I said, well, your son just called and committed to us. She said he did. Hold on real quick. And she didn't put the phone on mute. She yelled upstairs. Like, you know that yell. And she's like, let me call you back. Subsequently, kid calls us back maybe 2 hours later. Says, hey, coach, I need to sleep on it some more. Mom wants to sleep on some more. And we ended up not getting him, and the kid ended up going high major, which was crazy. When a year at JUCO, then he goes high major. But it's just some of the things like that where you think you got a diamond in the rough, and you know, it just wasn't in the cards for us. But you know, that was one of the horror stories. And on the flip side, when I'm at Columbia, there's a kid, 6'10", a kid out of North Carolina, actually, Patrick Tapé, sitting there in the weeds playing for PSB B team. You know, like, not the first team. You know, they're the ones that paid for their over stuff. You know, so he's on that team. He's, you know, runs like a gazelle, good hands, can finish. You know, coming into his own, he gets better every time I see him. You know, I go back to, you know, to my boss at the time, Kyle Smith. I say, this is our guy, man. Like, this dude's going to be tremendous, fantastic. You know, and the question that comes a lot, well, who else is recruiting him? Nobody, but I'm telling you, he's like, well, are you sure? Like, you know, like, and so, you know, luckily, you know, we get him out on a visit, and the Ivy League, and you work there, Lamar, so you understand it, but it's kind of a sweet spot. You want either kids that are kind of underprivileged as far as financial resources, or you want kids that are very affluent that it doesn't bother them. So he actually fell into that, you know, kind of at that point, you know, again, he kind of fit in that sweet spot to where he wouldn't have to pay a lot of money to come to an Ivy League school. So we were able to lock him up, like no traffic, like nothing, like get him done. He comes out to New York. His sister, you know, again, she wanted to do like med school, and she was actually looking at Columbia too. So it was great. Like mom came out, sister, and it was all great. It was all awesome. We rode, you know, rode down, you know, to the meatpacking district, and it was all great, man. And we got that thing wrapped up with no traffic. And that's the crazy part is Kyle had to leave midway through because he had some family stuff. So, so that's how much it was like we went all out. And then, you know, now we fast forward later, and he's the first basically grad transfer Duke's ever taken. You know, so you think about those stories, and you're like, wow, like you think you have two undiscovered talents, and one, you know, you don't get, and he ends up going high major to the Big 12, and then the other one, you don't fight anything, there's no traffic, and you get him, and now he's an ACC player. And, you know, I mean, I text him, you know, congratulations, people were calling me, you know, and they're like, hey, what about, and I'm like, hey, I just check in with them. I'm not, you know, I'm not involved in that like that. I'm a sounding board if he needs it. But, you know, I mean, just stories like that, man. And, you know, one you're extreme high and one you're extreme low, but end of the day, I think it all balances out.
Two great stories. Though. I love both of them. I mean, it's, you know, like, yeah, you're high and you're low on that situation. I mean, that's parents for you, though. They, you know, sometimes you do a great job, and parents are, you know, they got another agenda, which is interesting. We know this, man, like this business is 355, 360 days out of the year. It's a lot of time invested if you want to be good in this business. And you know, having a newborn, I know it's a little even tougher, but it actually works out for you a little bit because of the pandemic right now. But like, what did you have to give up or sacrifice achieving your current level of success?
Man, it's a lot of stuff, to be honest with you. A lot of people don't understand it, but the first and foremost thing was it was finances. I was an Air Force officer. I'm in Boston. I'm making, you know, $80K. You know, I'm an Air Force officer. Life's great. Life's grand. And then, you know, I volunteered. Luckily, I did some stuff simultaneously. You know, I worked at Thayer Academy, you know, while I was in active duty. So I'm still getting that, you know, that government check. And then I worked 1 year at Boston University. I'm still getting that government check. Then all of a sudden, you know, I get out, and I still haven't served enough time. You know, so then I do another year as a special assistant. I'm making $12,000. You know what I mean? Like, so again, I went from making 80,000, I'm making 12. And, you know, and Coach Jones, I mean, he appreciated it. He's, you know, a great person. You know, I love him. He calls me in his office after, you know, and I kind of told him my situation. Hey, I'm getting out of the Air Force, you know, and that check's going to stop, you know, so I'd love to be full-time here. So he comes in, you know, he's like, hey, I got some stuff done for you, pull some strings, and then I get 12K. So it was a, you know, a little bit of a shocker for me, but then he says, hey, you know what, like, just trust me. I got something else in the works for you. And a week later, calls me into his office. Says, hey, I got you a job, you know, that you can, you know, won't interfere with this. I say, oh man, great. I think, you know, we're Boston University. We got boosters, we got donors. I'm like, oh man, he's gonna have me, you know what I mean, doing some, you know, I don't know, stock trading or something, you know, something I can do kind of remote. he said, yeah, I got you a job as a bouncer at a nightclub. I said, what? I said, what? He said, yeah, I know the owner. I said, oh, okay. So, so I'm there literally, like, that was my best option because I couldn't sacrifice, again, my full-time basketball career at that time. And then that was something that didn't really interfere with it. And knowing the owner allowed me flexibility when we went on the road. So I literally was the bouncer from 9 to about 3 a.m. And then Coach Jones wanted me in the office at 8:30. You're meeting at 9. So again, it was that sacrifice. You sacrifice sleep, you sacrifice money. But again, it's the bigger goal, and it's something I love to do. You know what I mean? Again, when you do your passion, you're not really working. You know what I mean? Like, so it's not like I woke up and I was like, oh man, what am I going to do? I love going to the office. It was a great atmosphere. Boston University was one of the places that the players would come and just hang out in the offices. Like, that's not as normal, and I didn't know that. I just thought that was the norm, but it wasn't. And it's just the relationship piece and having that relationship with the guys and being that, sounding board and being kind of closer than you are as an assistant, being in a support role.
Awesome, man. I love that answer. Scout reports. We all know this too, Adam. You're in it long enough. You can always tell who scout it is, because they're the ones who jumping up and down on the sideline. And they put it like, the players, they understand it, but they really don't understand how much time you put into the scouts. And so, like, then you go over there and practice, film, and, like, you do a great job of it, and then guys just go out and really don't perform. Or you have a scout report that, you might have missed a couple of, you got the actions, but then you missed the play calls or things of that nature. And there's always that one guy that he's struggling shooting the ball. He's about 2 for his last 30 from 3. Somehow he wants to get hot when he plays you guys. And the coach is turning around saying, Coach, I thought he couldn't shoot. No, Coach, I never said he couldn't shoot. I said he's struggling right now. So talk about your best and worst scouting report you think you've had over the years.
Oh man, yeah, I'll just go this year. What you spoke about definitely showed up. We played again. I'll start with the unfortunate. Played Middle Tennessee. We had them at home. They were struggling. I think they'd lost. Oh man, like 7 straight. They had a freshman coming off the bench, lefty, shooter on the scouting report. Had not had a 20-point game, nothing like that, but was a shooter, and he comes out against us and lights it up. I mean, unbelievable. I mean, he played so well the first half. They started in the second half, like unheard of, like not like, oh my goodness. And then they also had another kid return off of injury, and he had played the night before against UTEP, because they were our travel partner, and he had a good night there too. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like you're kidding me, like. So I'm focused on him because I'm like, he just got healthy. So, hey, you know what? This guy just came back, stretch 4, can shoot it. So I'm putting the focus on him. Like, he's going to be the X factor. And then a freshman off the bench, 6'5" lefty, comes in and knocks in 6 3-pointers and scores like 28 points. So it happens. He was a shooter on the scouting report, so it was my saving grace. I did, he averaged like 1.5 points a game, but I had a shooter over there. So and he ended up getting hot. And it just, it was very unfortunate. We ended up losing the game. Honestly, we fouled a 3-point shooter with 0.4 seconds left. And then he goes down and knocks down. Yeah, so it was a game we were favored in. We were at home. We were, definitely, on paper supposed to win the game. But this guy came and played out of his mind, and he had a different plan that night. So that was one of the bad ones for this season. Then one of the, good ones was Louisiana Tech. I mean, we come in there, we're actually lost our first 2 games on the road in conference. They had won theirs, and so they're coming with a lot of momentum. We're a little, we're picked second in the league. We're kind of licking our wounds a little bit, and we come in there, we're up 20, 25 points. And so we ended up winning the game by 12 or 15, and it was a national TV game. So, so people looking at us like, oh man, like you guys got it rolling. We had a top ESPN top 10 play out of that. Had a guy catch a reverse lob, so we're all out there, we're raising the roof, and we're like, hey, we're back. So, just crazy, how it happens. And that was a game that I was definitely worried about, having La Tech, who's a great program, and Middle Tennessee's a very proud program too. It's just at that time they were struggling, and you don't want them to get well on you, and they did.
Awesome. What's the biggest challenge, man, you think you've experienced since you've been in college coaching?
Honestly, I think it's really just getting a feel for just the business, to be honest with you. There's so many moving parts. There's so many things. It's so much about relationships, and people tell you such broad level stuff, and you hear it, but you don't understand it. And so when you hear it and you say, oh man, this business is about relationships. Well, yeah, it is, for sure it is. But how do you build a relationship? Like, there's a lot of people trying to get in. There's a lot of people trying to stay in. There's a lot of people trying to move up. There's a lot of people trying to make a jump, whether it's from operations to assistant coach, whether it's, assistant coach to head coach, whether it's Division I, Division II, Division I, JUCO, Division I, and then there's so many different paths. There's so many different ways. The bottom line is there's no blueprint. You know what I mean? And that's what I didn't understand. I'm a numbers guy. X plus Y equals Z. So I'm like, okay, so if I do this, this, and this, then this is the result, correct? No. And you get a lot of it depends. And that's just the truth of the matter. So to me, the biggest conundrum and the weirdest thing is there is no blueprint. So I can't tell you, like Lamar, I can't tell you how to do X, Y, Z, because it'll be different for you than it was for me. And my story is different than someone else's story. And what worked for me may not work for you. You may try to volunteer somewhere and say no. I just got lucky that Joe Jones allowed me to volunteer. And again, that's making no money, just to have my presence. It took a lot. Now that I'm in it, I can't tell you I'd let someone off the street come volunteer, just because, again, there's so much influential stuff. There's so many things that they're touching that's, again, a part of your livelihood, a part of your family. So
true, man. So true. Now, do you ever find that there are things about you that people might misunderstand? What are
they? Honestly, I think maybe just my background. I think, being, again, an analytical person, going to the Air Force Academy, going to pretty good schools, and being, a little bit articulate, considered a smart guy, worked in the Ivy League. Again, at the end of the day, I'm still who I am. Come from Mesquite, Texas. Again, a lot of mansions there. Not a lot of fine dining. I'm just a regular dude who just happened to get a good education. And yeah, do I speak proper times? For sure. But that still doesn't mean I can't go into an area and recruit a certain type of kid. Like, I've done an Ivy League kid. I've recruited an inner city kid. I've recruited a kid that has $1 million in the bank. So I've recruited a kid that is on welfare. Again, Pell Grant kids. I can do that. So again, if there's any stigmatism about me, it's okay, well, can he recruit this type of kid, or can he go into that neighborhood? I can talk to both sides, which I think at the end of the day, that's a positive.
Definitely a positive. Definitely a positive. Now, we all know that this business, man, is we're teachers, we're educators first. We're coaches, but we're still teachers and educators. Like, what do you try to teach your guys, the players, besides basketball?
Oh man, just how to be a successful person in life, and how using basketball as a vehicle to do positive things. And that's mainly my main message to these guys is everything matters, whether or not, and how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you're late to a meeting for us, when you get in that corporate world, you're going to be late to that meeting too. If you can't do what we're asking you to do, then again, you're going to be held to a standard. You're going to have to achieve a certain level to earn your keep, in a sense. And so again, if you brush stuff off, if you don't prepare, if you overlook stuff, if you take the shortcut and you get into the failure cycle, it's like anything. If you don't work hard, you don't shoot shots, if you don't do extra, if you're a bare minimum guy, you're going to get bare minimum results. So again, you can't put in half the work if you're not okay with half the result. And so again, basically just trying to teach them through basketball that what you do and what you put your time toward that's what's important to you. So hopefully you're using things that are going to help you. And like I said, again, punctuality, honesty, trust, hard work, like all that stuff translates to life. And even though sometimes, and again, I'm a pretty big tweet person, sometimes the best thing that comes out of hard work is not what you get from it, but it's what you become. And so again, if you keep working hard, if that's your base, if that's your foundation, if that's your automatic, it'll allow you to be more successful in life. And the last piece is again, like, I read a lot of, it was in the military. So again, we read a lot of military literature. You don't rise to the level of occasion, you sink to the level of your training. Like, so that's what people don't realize. Like, they think, oh man, when that moment comes, I'm just gonna, dude, if you haven't been knocking down 500 shots a day, if you haven't been studying for that GMAT, if you haven't studied for that test, when that test comes, you ain't all of a sudden gonna know all the answers. You're gonna fall flat on your face, and then you're gonna look around and say, wow, I should have prepared. So again, we basically, I mean, and me and our staff, we've done a great job of doing that and allowing guys to interact with different boosters and alumni, and shaking people's hand, looking them in the eye, like just simple stuff like that. Speaking when someone enters the room, introducing yourself, just the basic things that will allow you to be and have a good impression on people. And then doing the things, like I said, through the hard work, the honesty, the trust, and preparedness will take you places when the ball does stop bouncing, which it will, when you have to get a job.
That's all great stuff right there, man. I love that. What are your best and worst memories in coaching?
Oh man, I'd say the worst. Again, there's a lot of heartache. Obviously, really just there was a situation to when I was at their academy. Again, I was just starting out, and there was a kid that he had a troubled past, and I feel like I may have treated him more so how I was raised and how he was raised. So to step outside of myself, and again, in that time I was very, very young and I was just getting into it, but maybe I was a little bit too hard on him, and it caused him to kind of get a spiral and ended up, just maybe I put too much on his plate as far as trying to correct everything as opposed to focusing, on just a few things that would make the biggest impact as opposed to trying to do everything. And he ended up failing the first semester and was ineligible the second semester. And that was just very unfortunate because, again, he needed basketball to keep him kind of off the streets, and so once he failed, he kind of rebelled out and kind of went his own way and started doing some different things. And luckily I heard back from him maybe like 6 months later, and he's like, Coach, I understand what you were trying to do for me. I understand why you were hard on me. But my deal is he learned that lesson after, getting the bad results and maybe allowing him to be more successful and giving him a better chance would have been his thing for he didn't run from me. Maybe I could have pulled him a little bit closer by not just undressing him and maybe just saying, hey, your shoe's untied. Hey, tuck your shirt in. Just simple things as opposed to just opening up the water hose on them. And then one of the best things would be winning the CIT at Columbia. Again, a traditional place that had not won. It was kind of crazy because the year before they built a trophy case with a basketball trophy with no trophies in there. So again, it's the thought process, but you see it though every day. You're walking past something, there's no trophies in there. And not that they hadn't won, and they had won, it just hadn't been recently. They had some good teams back in the 50s and 60s, things like that. So they had, not that they had never won, but in recent history, they had not won. And so having that there was kind of a reminder that, hey, there's unfinished business here. And then to put a trophy in that case and to have those guys celebrate the way they did and to see the student body and to see, the president and the athletic director and even the coaches and the players do something amazing. It was, again, just all the hard work, all the blood, sweat, and tears paid off, and it allowed those guys to say, hey, you can do it in a non-traditional place.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm going to ask this. It's like you're probably, I haven't asked this question yet, but I'm going to ask it because it is analytics. The game has changed so much, evolution of the game. Talk about analytics, like you can sum it up a little bit so people can understand. So that's where you come from. Let's talk about analytics a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. Basically, and analytics is basically just information resulting from the systematic analysis of data or statistics. So again, that's the simplest form of analytics. And you say, what is that? Of halftime box score. If you look at that halftime box score and you make adjustments in the game based on those statistics, you are using a form of analytics. So it's it's kind of crazy because people ask, you know, like, why do you believe it? Why am I a believer? And like you said, Lamar, the game has changed. And like I said, even as a player, I experienced success with it, you know, because when I was at Air Force, we played at Princeton Philosophies, and that's layups and threes, open threes. And so again, it's something that gives you a clear cut advantage over your opponents, and as Kyle Smith would always say, smart wins. And you know, I think some people have a negative perception of analytics. It's because of, I think, a lack of fundamental understanding. And basically all it is, it's just something to kind of gain a different kind of advantage. So basically it's process over result, is giving yourself the best chance. No, it is not foolproof. No, it isn't. So, I mean, again, if I'm just going to, you know, speak analytics real quickly and I'm going to sum it up, that's as short and as sweet as I can make it. I can get down into, you know, the weeds and all that stuff, but I like to keep it simple and get people just thinking about it a little bit differently.
And the reason why I asked that, because I've been on so many Zooms with Adam, and that's one of his favorite questions to guys, and he throws stats out. He's terrific at it. He's awesome. And if guys get a chance, you want to reach out to him and pick his brain, because he's actually terrific at it. Just knowing the numbers part of it, because it is. It's changed. It's here to stay. So people can act like they don't like it, but you got to learn to figure out how to understand it, is what I tell people all the time. You know, me having a chance to scout in the NBA this year, I saw a big difference of when I went in to watch what I was looking for from an advanced metric standpoint versus like why some guys make it and some guys don't. It's a huge difference, and a lot of people don't understand that. They don't. But this is a little different. What is the strangest thing a player has done outside of the basketball court you might have seen?
Oh man, let's see here. I'll go back to Boston University, and it ties into basketball a little bit, but it's crazy how some kids, even if you're winning, are not happy, and it's crazy how fragile certain people are, even when they are good players. So sometimes it's low self-esteem or low self-worth, or it's crazy things like that you don't even realize are going on. And I remember at Boston University, we're in the midst of a 5 or 6 game win streak, and you know, we have a film session, and I get a phone call, you know, from somebody that, you know, they're on their way to the film session, but you know, player X is not coming. He's locked himself in his room. Locked himself in his room? What? Yeah, he locked himself in his room. So, you know, I gotta go over there, and I'm literally talking through the door. Hey man, you all right? You good? And come to find out, it's just, you know, he hadn't been playing as well as he would have liked, despite we were winning. He had people back home, you know, you ain't going to leave, you ain't averaging, you know, X, Y, Z. And then his girlfriend had broken up with him because he had been so negative. So off the court, it was really a issue to where he was just kind of down and out. And we're living it up, it feels like, but it's a strange thing that you don't really know how people's mental, and that's the importance of mental health, that you don't know that some of these people, again, they set bars and they set metrics for themselves, and if they don't reach them, then they're a failure, or they're getting outside pressure that they have to live up to some mystical stat line that they may not be able to achieve, and winning's not the ultimate goal from some of the pressures that they receive. So that was one of the things that was weird to me, and you'll see that sometimes with perfectionists, you know, again, and you don't even think about that, but it's always, some people only look at the bad things. Like they only do that. And so it's unbelievable that drives some people to be great and some people to fold. So that'd be one of the strangest things would have been a guy that was a really all conference player, played professionally, but he was just down. You would not have think, the world's at your fingertips. And he was really, really depressed a little bit. And so, you know, we had to talk him off the ledge, and I'm sitting there talking through the door to him. And it's kind of like, you know, it was a guy that I didn't think that I would need to hug him every day, you know, because I'm like, dude, he's already good. Everybody's telling him he's the best thing since sliced bread. But at the end of the day, he needed that validation from someone else to say, hey, man, or how you doing today? Not just assuming he was good. So that's the thing that I would say, mental health, you never really know, despite whether or not you think they're doing well, the expectations they have for themselves, and if they're living up to that and those pressures from outside entities.
Wow, yeah, that's a little different, but definitely I understand what you're saying, especially the mental health piece. This is a quick question because, like, you played against some good teams, you've seen some good teams, you really studied the numbers, and so I know you've seen some teams. Like, if you had a chance to sit down with a couple of coaches, you've seen them from afar because you've looked at the numbers. Like, who would you want to sit down with, pick their brain, or even give your opinion just about the analytics to either better them, offensively, defensively, or things of that nature? Like, who are some coaches you would like, man, I would love to sit down, spend the day with them, go to the office, and just chat it up, talk about, analytics?
Oh man, there's so many people that are kind of adapting it now. But right off the top of my head, it would be someone like Anthony Grant. They've done a great job at Dayton. They're just super, super efficient. Like, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how efficient they are. And he's done it at a place that had not had that type of offensive efficiency. And not that they haven't had good teams, but I mean, again, to have that type and to be able to have that success the way that they've had, I definitely would love to pick his brain. And he's been at different spots and he hadn't had that type of success. So obviously he sharpened the toolbox. He did some things. He had a profile already that could lead to success, but they get a lot of easy buckets. And I'd even go to Mark Pope at BYU. I'd love to sit down with him. He's done a really, really good job. Utah Valley did a great job, and he plays differently at Utah Valley than he does at BYU, but he still has great offensive success. And they're another team that, again, he's very adaptable, and it's unbelievable that he's been able to do that two different ways and have two different kind of styles, but still have the same results the most important stat is wins, and he's had that too. So those are just two people off the top of my head that I'd love to sit down and pick their brain. Obviously, defensively, you think a team like Virginia. I mean, again, they have some of the longest defensive possessions and still get good results. And so, you get that metric of, oh man, the deeper you go in the shot clock, the better your chances. That's actually, I feel like that's a flawed stat. I feel like, scoring earlier in the clock, the actual percentages are a little bit higher, but again, it sounds better though. Oh, maybe we need 4 ball reversals. It does sound better, but they're a team that makes you go deep in the clock, and they feel like they're hard to play against. Texas Tech's another team. I mean, Chris Beard's done a great job defensively. They've switched non-traditional things, and they don't worry about matchups. They make it hard to play against them, and that's something that's been pretty cool to see. And the last one I'd say would be Cincinnati. John Brennan has a philosophy that he doesn't press to kind of turn you over as much. He presses to make you start your offense later. And once you start your offense at, say, 17 on the clock, he's over there cheering like a madman because your odds of being successful in that possession are a lot lower because you're just now starting your action. And so you can't get as many options in that short time span. So just off the top of my head, those are some people I'd definitely love to sit down and pick their brain and chat it up some.
Yeah, I mean, those are some great ones. And I had a chance to watch Anthony Grant and them 3 or 4 times this year, and I was impressed. Like, they were one of the top 4 teams in the country. It didn't matter, but their spacing on the floor was unbelievable. You talked about the efficiency and stuff. Like, is a reason why he was as efficient. I mean, spacing, you could create driving lanes. Guys shot the ball extremely well because they got open shots, and it was amazing to watch. And I go back and I think about it, and I remember I worked for Jeff Jones for 6 years, 3 at Old Dominion, and I used to always talk to him, right? And he's one of the, he's down on that end, but they used to always say points per possession. They got to be at a certain amount. And it took me leaving, after me leaving a year, for him to say, and we used to do it in practice, charted in practice, and I used to be like, Coach, we're at 1.2, we're at 1. And then a year after I left, he was like, yo, man, I really took heed to what you were saying. we really look at points per possession now. And even though he plays at a slower pace, but he started looking at it more. And then, 2019, they ended up going to the NCAA tournament. They had some really good players, but he started looking at that. And I was like, yo, the game is changing. Like, it's become, points per possession is important, offensively and defensively. So, and I'm like, if he can change, because he was kind of stuck in his ways, but like, if he can change, a lot of guys could change. Trust me, they definitely could.
No doubt.
And you see them, they're in your league. So, I mean, I know how, you've seen them in the last few years. What's the biggest accomplishment, man, you think you've experienced since you've been a college coach?
I'd say the biggest thing is just changing people's lives, to be honest with you. Taking, first generation college graduates, because that's life changing, because the biggest impact I was able to make, I feel like, was at Columbia, to be honest with you, because you would bring kids that are non-traditional Ivy League kids and put them in a Ivy League school, and they come out with Ivy League connections. And so it's unbelievable what those, they always say it's your network is your net worth. It's unbelievable what those kids can accomplish and the people that they get around. And now some of them are on Wall Street, and they're stock traders. They're making more money than me, but they're happy, and they're having access to things and access to information and access to a lifestyle that was not afforded to generations before them. And so now it's there. Hopefully they pay it forward, as they continue to progress in life, and they don't forget where they came from. They continue to give back. I definitely make sure I remind them, if we need a donation or two, to don't forget about, who reached back and pulled them up. But that's life changing. And Boston University does a similar thing. Again, been in the Patriot League. It's an awesome site. But then even at UTSA, we took a Sudanese Australian kid, South Sudan refugee, went to Australia and again wasn't in the greatest situation financially, but he just graduated and he's going back to Australia with a degree, and that's something that he'll have for the rest of his life, and it's something that he can tote proudly and use it to better himself for future generations to come.
Terrific, man. This might throw you for a loop, and I know you probably watched less lately because of the newborn. But like, what movie or TV show title best describes your week?
Ooh, let me see. I'm trying to think. I'd go with. Ooh, that's tough. That's tough. I guess I'll just go with one of the TV shows I really like, and I watch reruns all the time. But I'd go with Martin, just because I love Martin. But every day's an adventure, man. Every day's an adventure. Again, I've been active, been doing some Zooms. What you hear again, some of the stuff is unfiltered. And then having the baby, or sometimes I have the baby in my arm. I feel like I'm doing 6 things at once, but I'm still trying to listen. I'm still trying to learn, and it's definitely I think of just a couple episodes where it feels like Martin's doing everything. Again, one episode he's babysitting one of his friends' babies, and he's trying to do everything and have the baby in his arms, but still hang out with his boys and still be present and doing everything to check all the boxes. So I'd go back to just an old classic of Martin, and just trying to do everything, trying to be everywhere, trying to make an impact.
I love Martin. You're not the only one. I've heard Martin a few times, and it's interesting you said it, and I love it. Like, I love being on Zooms with Adam, because when he talked about having the baby in his arms, and I looked for this. A lot of people don't look for it, and we joke about it when we're on the Zoom. Like, someone speaks analytics, the word analytics come up, and Adam has the baby in his hand. I always say, and he jump up with the baby in his arms. He's so excited, and I always joke with him about it. So people don't see him. I do, because I take notice to it, and I'm just excited because he's really passionate about analytics. I know some people don't get it and they laugh and joke about it, but I respect him for it. Just because he is a numbers guy, and I'm a numbers guy myself. But I had to bring that up because it is hilarious when I see it, and I don't think people understand it, but I do when you get excited about it.
Yeah, we throw out daddy daycare if you want to. That's what it is too sometimes. Again, because the wife went through 9 months, and and now she got cleared to work out, so she wants to get back, and we got this COVID-19, so it's a lot of things. I mean, daddy daycare would be also something that you could throw in there because again, it never stops, and again, I'm always active.
I got it. What's your favorite word or phrase?
I'd say my favorite word would be, again, it very, very, very military, would be integrity. I mean, again, it's such a, over encompassing word, but I mean, doing the right thing no matter who's around or what the consequences are, but it's just being authentic, being you, being true to yourself, and it just encompasses a whole lot of stuff. So I'd say integrity would be something that, hopefully, knock on wood, I get an opportunity to hold a press conference sometime for some good news, and that would be something that I definitely would speak about, and something definitely I'd want to reiterate it and kind of hang my hat on.
Awesome. What's the best piece of advice, man, you've ever been given?
Oh man, that's easy. It helped me get my job at Columbia. I actually ran into Kyle Smith at the Final Four, and he actually recruited my brother to the Air Force. Never coached him, but recruited my brother to the Air Force. So he was Kyle Smith was there for 8 months, and he spotted my brother literally 5 minutes, watched him 5 minutes, literally 5 minutes, not 5 game minutes, 5 minutes from the balcony, long, made a three ball. He's like, he's got some length and made a three, and wrote his name down. Ended up going to Air Force and was a really good player. But someone gave me this advice. It was about 10 years ago. And they said, if you ask for a job, you get advice. If you ask for advice, you get a job. And when I ran into Kyle Smith, I was at the Final Four, and obviously running to people, him. He's actually wearing a Jets jersey underneath his blazer. So hey, there's a lot of things I could have harped on, but I ran into him. I said, hey, and he had actually a very, very successful just season at Columbia, and I said, hey, Kyle, how you doing, man? Hey, I'm just running to this, whatever head coaches meetings. Oh, cool. Let me, I don't want to hold you up. Let me get your number. He says, oh, come on, man. You give me my number, man. You'll ask for a job. And then I used that line. I said, no, you don't know me. I said, if I ask for a job, I get advice. If I ask for advice, I get a job. He said, you know what? He stopped. He was like literally walking off of me. Like kind of like, oh, I can't anytime. And he stopped. And he said, wow, I've never heard that before. He said, I've never heard that before. And I obviously I hijacked it from somebody else, so I'm not gonna say I originated, but he said, I've never heard that before. And so he stopped and he said, no, I'm gonna give you my number. Like that, if you're not gonna ask for a job, then I can definitely give you advice. And he did, and he ended up hiring me subsequently, maybe 7-8 months later.
Wow. That's I love that. I wrote that. I was writing that down. Like, it's pretty good advice right there. What does success mean to you?
I'd say success, honestly, is it all starts with family with me. And it's very cliche, but happy wife, happy life. I think having a successful family atmosphere, having faith, being a good person, I think those are the most important things, and leaving a legacy. And that's one thing of giving unto others. And again, it's another military thing, but service before self, and that's something that has kind of been ingrained in me. And when you're in a military service academy, you figure out, hey, it's not about me, it's about we. And I think success is helping the people around you. I think success is, as they say, the rising tide lifts all ships. I think that's it too. I think being around the right people. I think it's being the best version of yourself. It's never ending, and it's again, I'm part of Coaches for Changes, and I love this phrase, endless pursuit. And it's something that's not a destination; it's a journey. So I feel like success for me is happiness, and it's tied into faith, family, and then basketball and academics.
Awesome. And speaking of happy, where is your happy place? Because, you know, you had tough losses, you had tough practice, recruit, devastating news. Like where is your happy place?
Honestly, it's with the people that are in the trenches with me, and that's our coaching staff. And our coaching staff's fantastic. They're great. They're very, very knowledgeable, and they're very, very helpful. There's no competition. There's no egos. And Coach Henson's done a great job of creating an atmosphere where we do promote each other. And to me, it's you go through some heartache, you go through stuff that's tough. You want to be around people that you know, love, and care about you. Outside of basketball, like we'll have family gatherings, and it's great that, you know, my wife sits with Coach Henson's wife, sits with Coach Thompson's wife, sits with Coach Peck's wife, sits with Coach Luster's wife, and they all sit together and they all hang out and have camaraderie, and I feel like it's something that is just indescribable when you have it and when you feel it, and it is definitely a happy place no matter what the circumstances are. You know, you're around people that love you and care about you.
So true, man. I knew you're not a self-promoter. You talked about selfless. If you had to choose 3 adjectives to describe yourself, like which would you choose?
I'd go with honest, hardworking, and selfless. I'd use those, and obviously the honest piece takes care of itself. You know what I mean? Somebody that you can trust. I think that's all encompassing. Hardworking is something I've known. I mean, again, it'd be great to take the elevator, the escalator, but, you know, sometimes you got to take the stairs, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. And it's just a mutual respect doing it. You know, again, I've coached, you know, high school. I've coached AAU. I've coached staff position. I've done, you know, Division I. I've done Ivy League. You know, I've done, you know, and I'm in Conference USA. But again, just climbing the ladder, and I feel like those adjectives are just something, again, just not in deep thought, but just things that pop in my head.
Awesome. Like, what person and or event has had the most influence on your life?
Honestly, I'd say I was about probably 11 years old, and there's so many lessons in this. I was always a person that, you know, I mean, I followed the rules, but there's always gray area, and I'm like, okay, let me try to wiggle around this. And so my mother told me, hey, you know what? Don't climb the tree in our yard. Okay, no problem. What about 3 doors down? You didn't say I couldn't climb that tree. So I go down there, I climb that tree 3 doors down, and subsequently I end up falling out of the tree. I was an idiot. I'm climbing down the tree with my back to the tree, if you can imagine that. So I'm literally stepping on branches, and then, you know, one of them snaps, and I end up falling about 15 feet, and I end up breaking my jaw and breaking my left wrist. And it was, you know, and my brother's with me. They run me back home, and I'm sitting there with a broken wrist, and my jaw's split in half, and so I push back, and I can't really talk. I'm like this. And my first question was, am I going to get in trouble? Am I going to get a spanking? You know, like that was my, you know, like, because I was, and it just was like, hey, you know what? Like, use some discretion, you know, like if you can't climb this tree, don't climb that tree. Like you're not going to beat this, you know, not going to manipulate the system. Like, you know what I mean? Like take things, use discretion, do things the right way. Don't try to be sneaky. Don't operate in the gray. And that was something I learned from a young age, and it affected me because we were playing Pee Wee football. We were in the championship. I couldn't play because I was hurt, you know, like, so therefore I took myself out trying to manipulate the system, trying to be, you know, sneaky and trying to outsmart it, when at the end of the day, hey, if I know the rules, just follow the rules. I don't have to bend or break them to achieve some sort of success. Somebody knows better than me. And so therefore I need to learn from others' mistakes, not my own. And so that was a big lesson for me when I was young, that, hey, see, look, we told you. And I said, well, yeah, because something probably happened to her when she was growing up, or in her life, or from, you know, their family, that she knew, hey, you probably shouldn't be climbing a tree when you're 11 years old.
That's an awesome story, man. That's an awesome one. Listen, so I like to end when I like asking this question at the end, like, knowing what you know now, what would you tell your younger self, to prepare for as an assistant coach?
I just go with and enjoy the journey. Enjoy the journey, because again, we get wrapped up in so many different things. You get, you have so many dreams, so many aspirations, but if you don't slow down and enjoy where you're at, and everybody says it's very cliche, the big times where you're at, make yourself irreplaceable where you're at. The most important job is the one you have now. And those type deals, like everyone says it and you think you know it, you hear it, but you're always kind of, you can be kind of, peeking and looking and thinking, and it's really just the journey that makes, hopefully, the destination, when you get there, it makes it worth it. But along the journey you enjoy, the lives you change, the impact you make in communities. And again, basketball takes you so many places, and you interact with so many people, so many great people. And then if you have a chance to change a kid's life, even if it's say it's a sophomore kid, they have we've spoken about it, the 10, and, you got to have the 10 core credits in basically 6 semesters. If it's a kid that's, in his sophomore year, if I go to a school and I want to, or junior year, and you want to recruit them, hey man, you got to get your academics right. This is more than basketball, and that's a part of the journey too. Is to be able to tell kids that it is bigger than basketball. To maybe, if it is to be tough on a kid, to tell them, hey, you need something else. Like, what if this thing doesn't work out for you? What is Plan B? And the great people have Plan Bs, whether or not they use them or not. That's that takes their stuff, but you have it, and so therefore you need more than just basketball. That's part of the journey. And so when you realize that hey, you know what, like, this is bigger than what the name on this, I think it's mirrored, but whatever like UTSA, yeah, but it's making an impact where you are. That's a part of the journey, and that's the people you encounter, the staff that you have. Those are lifelong friends. It's just so many things, and the journey is where it's at. And now looking back, again, all these stories that I have, is I feel like, there's so many of them, and there's so many great experiences, and it's the journey that makes it worthwhile.
Awesome. So, look, I want to thank you again, Adam, man, for being a guest on the show and being unmasked. Like, is there anything you want to leave with the viewers before we go?
Honestly, I would just say, make sure, again, as if you're an aspiring basketball coach and you want to get into this business, make sure you're around great people, man. Like, it's so important, your quality of life, and Coach Henson and our staff here at UTSA has done a tremendous job of making this thing fun. And I've been blessed along the way to be a part of staffs that are, people like each other, and they used to take that stuff for granted, but everybody is on the same page, rowing in the same direction. So again, if you have an opportunity, again, to kind of figure out some things, I know sometimes you don't, but being around good people, being around positive people. I'm a positive person. So again, carefully being around people where you fit, so you don't have to change who you are. So again, being around good people, being who you are, I think those things are so important. And I've been blessed along my journey to work for, Joe Jones and Kyle Smith and Steve Henson. And it's been a blessing. And going back to college, I played for some great coaches there too. I mean, a guy like Chris Mooney, who's head coach at Richmond. I played for him. He was a 32-year-old head coach. And I don't get it when I'm a freshman in college, but the things that he had to endure, being a first-year head coach and being that young, and some of the titles and things like that, he was just a good person, and he helps impart wisdom in the young folks. And so, again, being around a good environment, being yourself, and the people that you work with is very important. Be who you are.
Look, man, I want to thank you for that knowledge you just dropped. I hope the young people understand what you're saying. But that was great. And I want to thank you, viewers, for watching another great show. Stay tuned for the next guest as we get them unmasked. See you next time, and stay safe.